The budget reckoner. Over the course of last couple of days, we've been trying to bring out one aspect which in a sense could be important for this year's budget process. And today we would be talking about the agriculture sector. Just to bring our viewers up to speed with agriculture, we all know that the importance or the dependence of agriculture in India over the years has come down, but where do we stand now? The number was well over 50% a couple of decades ago. Then came in IT services, and then that led to a large bump up in the service sector in India. And as of today, if one really looks at the GDP contribution to the agriculture sector, it stands at 18%. However, this sector still accounts for almost 50% of the direct and the indirect employment which is created in the country. So the agriculture sector really from a social and economical standpoint is an important sector, given that any large radical reforms in the agriculture sector can really push India really forward in becoming a Viksit country very soon. The importance of agriculture is also there because if one really looks at the productivity, which is that the total productivity which currently is coming from the agriculture sector, both in terms of per yield acreage, is one of the lowest in the world. So a lot needs to be done, a lot can be done, and a lot should be done in order to ensure that a sector which represents nearly 18% of the GDP, how can the contribution of this sector increase, and what really can be done to ensure that the employment generation which sector does, it is able to create a lot of skill employment, not just basic farmers who perhaps are not really able to move up the value chain largely because of constraints. So today our theme is agriculture sector, and this is a big ET Now exclusive, which is in a boost to the agriculture sector. ET Now learns that the government may hike credit target in the upcoming budget. Prakash is here with more details.
Yes, government is likely to provide impetus to the agriculture sector in the budget. We are given to understand that some significant announcements are likely to be made. Sources are indicating that the government may increase overall allocation for the agriculture and allied sector, which is likely to be increased by 10%, and the overall allocation may be hiked to rupees 1.65 to 1.70 lakh crore. In addition to that, Ministry of Agriculture has sought higher allocation for flagship schemes such as KCC and PM Fasal Bima Yojana, where Kisan Credit Card and PM Fasal Bima Yojana may be made more lucrative in order to attract more farmers and provide them additional benefits. Along with that, overall allocation for fisheries, animal husbandry and dairy likely to be increased to rupees 10,000 crore from rupees 7,000 crore for FY25. So it's a very significant development coming in. The second aspect of this whole development is, of course, with regard to agricultural credit. We're given to understand that the government is likely to increase agriculture credit target by 15% from existing 27.5 lakh crore, which is set for financial year 2025. A very significant development coming in, and the government is expecting higher domestic consumption, rural consumption by allocating additional target. A very significant development coming in, and of course that is expected to generate more jobs and rural demand going forward.
Siraj Hussain joins us now, former Secretary of Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare Advisory. He currently is with Welfare Advisory and with Vicky. Mr. Hussain, always nice to have you back on ET Now. The agriculture sector contributes to about 18% to the aggregate GDP, but is currently creating 42% of direct and indirect jobs in the country. So looking at the data, it is very clear that the contribution is coming down, but the dependence of the mass population is still very high.
You are right. Actually, what has happened is that the other sectors of economy, especially low-cost manufacturing, labor-intensive manufacturing, has not been doing as well as one was expecting. And as a result of that, a lot of people, especially after the sudden lockdown declared during COVID migrated back from their jobs in the small and medium scale industries, urban areas, even construction to rural areas, and they have not come back to manufacturing or services or whatever uh, because those jobs have not been created and even those jobs are not paying enough. As a result of that, according to PLFS, some 46% of employment is in the agriculture sector, which is too much. I have written several times that the solution to agricultural problems lies in non-agricultural sectors, which means you have to create gainful employment, better quality employment, not unpaid employment as we have at present and which we call employment, so that the surplus labor from agriculture can move out to these sectors where it can earn a more paying income in that sense.
Um, what can be done then in the budget to ensure that the agriculture sector is able to move up in terms of productivity and contribution? Because the agriculture, I mean, state is a very large intervening factor every time when it comes to agriculture or farmers.
Yes. So what has been happening is that in the last few years, since 2019, a lot of budget of the Ministry of Agriculture has been allocated for direct income transfer to farmers in the form of PM Kisan. So for 2024-25, the allocation is 60,000 crores. Now, the agriculture sector is starved of investment. And what we notice is that, for example, last year, the budget allocation for investment was 11.11 trillion rupees. But most of it was going to defense, to infrastructure, road construction, port construction, railways, and so on. The agriculture sector has not seen the investment which is required in strengthening the value chains. For example, that you would hardly find an APMC which has good cold chain facilities. The government has not been investing. The Agriculture Infrastructure Fund, it was basically created through which the government is providing interest subvention on loans given by banks for infrastructure projects in the agriculture sector. So what we need is investment by the union government directly in infrastructure in the agriculture sector. One example, Delhi Azadpur is a very big market for the agricultural produce, and you get agricultural commodities from all over North India. It is the first sale point. Uh, for example, a lot of apple comes to Delhi Azadpur Mandi. So the government can easily make Azadpur Mandi an ideal APMC market for the whole nation to emulate. For that, you need investment in APMC. I am only hoping, I am wishing, I am praying that the finance minister will find resources for making Azadpur and other mandis, at least in union territories, to make them ideal for emulation in other states.
You've really got me thinking, sir, the minute you say apples, and it is season of apples. In Bombay also we are enjoying apples. So it's always nice to hear about, what's happening in terms of, apples and how we all really enjoy them. But I'll shift focus and talk about something very basic. One is logistics and second is productivity. Productivity could be a function of technology. Productivity could be a function of grants. Productivity could be a function of modernization. Those are factors which can be addressed very seamlessly by the center. Creation of a agri-tech fund, giving technology or modernization support to the farmers, provide dedicated infrastructure so that the wastage of agricultural produce is minimized. At a time, sir, when India has migrated to a digital stack, unique identification, UPI, we've not seen any breakthrough in agriculture, both in terms of technology and modernization.
Actually, the first point of any serious success in agriculture sector comes from better seeds. So, seed development takes time and resources. Last year, in the budget speech, Finance Minister had announced that the Agriculture Minister will invite offers from private sector to compete with public sector research organizations like ICAR in developing seeds, which will give you higher yield. It is not that we have not seen success. For example, the CO0238 variety of sugarcane resulted in very substantial increase in productivity of sugarcane in UP, as a result of which UP became the largest producer of sugar, beating Maharashtra. Similarly, in case of rice, we have seen Pusa 1121, 1509, which has given India a lot of foreign exchange by way of export. So we need more investment in seeds, but it is not agri-tech in that sense, because generally, people think that agri-tech is only where you use internet. So in case of agriculture, it is not only the internet. Internet comes much later. Before that, you need investment in soil, investment in water, investment in seeds, etc., so that the yields can go up. We have seen success stories in yields going up in case of vegetables, for example, where the private sector companies developed hybrid seeds, which have been accepted by the farmers. For example, in certain districts of Bihar, the yield of maize is touching 8 tons per hectare, which is similar as the yield of maize in Iowa. So we do need investment in these sectors, uh, public investment and private investment, so that the farmers have access to better quality of seeds, better practices for cultivation. And of course, once the higher quantum of yield comes into the market, then you need better markets, more integrated markets, and so on. There, technology has an important role.
Uh, Last question, sir. What, to your mind, could really encourage entrepreneurship in the agriculture sector? You use the word internet, but there is a reason why internet or technology sector is attracting talent is purely because of the culture, purely because of how wealth is getting created and the social recognition. Unfortunately, in India, you don't have too many entrepreneurs who are putting their ring in the hat, so to speak, that okay, after their, I mean, nobody is really putting risk capital or talent or is coming up with innovation even when it comes to the young generation. Is that true, and what can be done?
It is not really true, because we do see a lot of startups in agriculture, agri-tech sector also. Omnivore, for example, is a fund which invests in startups. Several startups have been very successful, especially in the area of marketing by connecting the farmers and FPOs directly with market players. But I agree that none of them has become, billion rupee company and so on. But I think we have seen success stories. But at the all India level, national level, you don't see the kind of success which will enthuse the pink papers and business channels. So you don't see a PTM kind of thing, or you know that kind of thing is not there, because agriculture is related to agroclimatic zones. What is relevant for hills, for example, is not relevant for plains where the temperatures can be 45 degrees. But it is a measure of success of agriculture that you are eating apple in Bombay. So the climate controlled cold storages set up by various companies, including Adani's in Himachal Pradesh, for example, have resulted in better storage of apples, due to which you see apples being consumed and being available in the off season also.
Just wrap it up with one more point. Ultimately, it's all about affordability and accessibility of credit. And this is something where, there has been good and bad both. While agriculture continues to be part of what is called as priority sector lending in India, the availability of credit is something which can be perhaps reworked by coming up with better schemes which give interest subvention and certain benefit when it comes to the agriculture sector. Do you think something could be done in this budget which talks about access and ease of agriculture credit?
Actually, agriculture credit enthuses the media a lot. Every year when the budget is announced, the media channels talk about agriculture credit getting increased to 14 trillion, 13 trillion, and so on. But what is happening is that this concedes that a lot of agricultural credit goes to corporates. So, and the tenant farmers do not have any access to credit. Only those farmers can access credit who have land in their name, who have land titles. So, a big problem of agricultural lending in India is that the farmers, the tenant farmers who are actually cultivating, do not have access to credit. And in Punjab, for example, they pay a very high rate of renting land. So that is a big problem, and the government thinks that it can be tackled by agri-stack and all that. A lot of people have reservations about that because the landholders, the title holders, do not want tenancy to be recorded. So this particular issue is at the crux of agricultural lending, and it has not been resolved yet.
All right, Mr. Hussain, really appreciate your time. It's been a very engaging conversation with you. You've cleared a lot of my doubts. You've given us a sense as to what we should really focus on in terms of ensuring that where the agriculture sector can really take that giant leap forward, and if India really has to become a Viksit Bharat by 2047, this sector has to contribute. Before I take a break, I just want to pinpoint that number once again. The dependence of agriculture sector in India has reduced. It's below 20% now because other sectors are expanded. But the total dependence on the agriculture sector in terms of the direct and indirect employment it is providing, I think it still stands tall at about 42%. So imagine 42% of the employment is coming from this sector, directly and indirectly, but the contribution is coming lower. So the dependence is high, but the real productivity gain or the per capita gain or the GDP contribution is not there. So this in a sense is the heart of what can be addressed, whether it is in this budget, outside the budget, in and around budget, something needs to be addressed here, because without the support of the agriculture sector and this such large dependence, if it does not really move up the value chain, the dreams of becoming a developed nation by 2047 would be seriously challenged. Let's take a break. Budget is also about stocks, and if agri could be a theme in this year's budget speech, which are some of the agri stocks which could see swings where you can chance your arm and make some fun money. More on that with Kunal Bothra after this break.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.